Hello, all you dream warriors out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. This is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
What up?
Today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 7, Episode 23, Extreme Measures. Alternate title, Operation Walter Sobchak.
Okay.
That's like a callback.
Yeah, I was about to, I was just watching some stuff from The Big Lebowski today and thinking about how we just talked about that, so it's funny.
This episode originally aired May 19th, 1999. It was written by Bradley Thompson and David Weddle, and directed by Steve Posey, and Cirroc Lofton is not in the episode. I don't remember.
Actually, yes, Cirroc Lofton not in the episode, and somebody else not in the episode.
Oh, well, Quark, again, is not in the episode.
Yep. Apparently, there was a scene with Quark that is... It's unclear whether it was filmed. It was at least in the script, where just after the opening credits, he visits Odo in the infirmary and tries to tell him that he knows who has been stealing Tilavin hollow sculptures in a case dating back 9 years.
Nice. I thought the scene was going to be that he catches Bashir and O'Brien breaking into the bar and stealing his booze, and he's like, what the heck?
It's like, stay out. What are you doing?
I gotta get a better lock. But we will be discussing spoilers up through this episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, but not after this episode. The next 2 episodes are off limits for spoilers. So it is safe to watch along with us if this is your first experience with Star Trek Deep Space Nine, but sometimes we also spoil other stuff because we don't care about that. So
everybody dies in the next 2 episodes. It's the Wild Bunch. There you go.
You ruined the Wild Bunch.
Well, we did warn them.
Wild Bunch, directed by Sam Peckinpah, who David Weddle wrote a biography of, who wrote this episode.
Man, bringing it back.
So, yeah, think about that. Anyway, first things first, how would you rate the title Extreme Measures?
Okay, so there's a note in here about the original or something title. Let me find that first, and then we'll... According to the script, the working title of the episode was Night Tremors.
Ugh.
Which feels like it promises a very different kind of episode from what we got, I think. Yeah. So not going with that.
That sounds like a horror title.
Yeah. Well, and isn't there's like an episode of The Next Generation it's night, something about night. Night Terrors is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that probably would have been too similar.
It also says, and the script mentioned the Talavian art theft, or Talavin. And I was like, oh, is that something that is like a reference to something before this? So I had to look it up, and no. There is an article about it. The only reference is in the script for this episode, not even in the episode. So.
Yeah, not even in a scene in the episode.
So I will say that Extreme Measures better than Night Tremors.
For sure, yeah. I'll give it that, definitely.
Otherwise, it's just really generic.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe the measures seem kind of extreme.
Uh-huh.
But in comparison to like other stuff that we do in this show, I don't know that it feels, out of the box extreme.
True.
You could have.
It is kind of extreme, but yeah.
You could have called In the Pale Moonlight Extreme Measures, and I feel like it would have been more fitting.
That would have been a way crappier title, but yeah.
It would have. Yes, you're right. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know that I feel like it's clever. I don't know that I feel like it's memorable. It's so generic. It's not memorable at all. I wouldn't connect it with this episode. I wouldn't connect it with being an episode of this show. So overall title score is going to be real low for me.
Yeah, it's kind of a dud, isn't it?
But it's not Night Tremors.
True.
So there you go.
That would have been weird. At least I think that would have been memorable just in its weirdness. But
that's true. I would have scored higher on memorability. I'll give you that.
I know there was a movie around this time called Extreme Measures, but I forgot to look up if that was before or after this episode came out.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. Extreme Measures film, 1996 thriller.
Oh, so it was definitely before this.
Starring Gene Hackman. And is that Hugh Grant? Sorry, I'm just going by the picture. I recognize Gene Hackman, but yeah, that's Hugh Grant. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds right. So I don't know if the plot... I've never seen that movie. I don't know if the plot of this episode is relevant to that movie, but...
It deals with the ethics of medical sacrifices.
So kind of similar.
I mean, yeah.
They were medically sacrificing Sloane to get the cure for Odo, I guess.
Or, like, they were sacrificing Odo to destroy the Founders. I guess you'd call that medically. They infected him with a disease. I don't know what else you'd call it necessarily, but...
They were sacrificing Odo to also sacrifice the Founders. I don't know if it even falls under medical ethics at that point.
Oh, hold on. I get it. I finally figured out what the medical thing was. So it involves this guy performing spinal experiments on homeless people who end up dead, but in an attempt to find a cure for paralysis. And saying, like, if I kill one to save millions, then that's totally worthwhile.
So he's just doing human experimentation on homeless people?
That does seem like what I'm getting here.
Yeah, that's probably not good.
No.
I'd say that's probably not... That's probably against medical ethics. I don't know about Julian Bashir's medical ethics, but...
Yeah, his are a lot, like he will Frankenstein somebody up real good.
Oh, yeah.
So, who knows? But, yeah... I mean, maybe the killing one to save millions thing sort of applies because, you know, we're stopping the war if we get rid of the Founders, theoretically. But
could be. I don't know if they thought that much about it. Maybe they did.
Yeah, I don't feel like Sloane was wrestling with his personal ethics.
Right.
So
he's like, this is well within my ethics. He was like,
yeah.
He's like, quick ethical check. Am I okay with this? Oh, yes, definitely. I will continue. But... We learn in a chief medical officer's log, starting off the episode, that Kira, Garrick, and Odo have returned to Deep Space Nine, presumably on their way back from stealing the Breen energy weapon. Damar, I guess, went back to the cave set to continue running the Resistance.
Yeah, there's actually a note that this is the only episode of the whole, like, final 9 or however many episodes that Damar does not appear in.
So I don't know if he, like, just dropped them off and immediately flew home or what happened, but...
Also, it says Weyoun and the female changeling are listed in the cast section of the script, and the Dominion briefing room is listed as a setting, but I guess that whatever that was never actually happens.
Maybe they just copy and pasted from the last script.
It could happen.
I do it all the time, so... But, Odo is in the infirmary, and he's not looking so good. Dr. Bashir has invented some kind of Nadion therapy, but this will still only give Odo an estimated 2 weeks. So somehow, Odo, who was symptom-free for 3 years, has now degenerated past the apparent disease progress of all the rest of the Founders.
Yeah, like way past. I wonder if, because, you know, the Founders on their wherever their homeworld is these days are almost always in a liquid state. I wonder if just being liquid all the time is like, you're not shifting into other shapes, but you're not in a consistent shape either because you're all mixing with stuff. So I'm like, is that better or worse? I guess it must be better because Odo shapeshifts and deteriorates super rapidly.
Well, I'm sure like if being in liquid state was worse, they would be like, okay, well, let's not do that for a while or something like that.
That's probably true.
I'm going to go ahead and say maybe Odo shouldn't have done so much shapeshifting because I think that did not go well for him.
But it allowed them to blow up some stuff or something.
Sure, why not? Bashir reassures Odo of his commitment to finding a cure, but Odo is just like, yeah, great. Can I talk to Kira? So Kira comes in and sits by Odo's side. Kira says she's going to stay with Odo until he's recovered, but he says, no, Damar needs you to help with the Resistance. Odo doesn't seem to think that Garrick can handle advising the Resistance by himself, which I think is kind of selling Garrick short.
I mean, yeah. I understand why other people would want Kira to be there. She's now a Federation representative, basically, and you can't trust anything Garrick says.
True.
So,
it's like every day is going to be a new In the Pale Moonlight without proper supervision.
Yeah. So, you need someone there to watch over his shoulder.
It's like, how have there been 86 assassinations since we left Garrick alone?
Man, this Resistance is really ramping up. I mentioned this in an earlier episode because there was a note about it, but this is there's a discussion in the notes here about like, so Ronald D. Moore decided in some earlier episodes that we needed regulars in the Cardassian Rebellion plot. Couldn't just have it be Damar and asshole Cardassian number 1 and asshole Cardassian number 2 or whatever.
Okay.
But that, like, you know, had a cascading effect on other episodes because they're like, well, who would we send to Cardassia? Obviously, we'd send Kira and Garrick to Cardassia. But David Weddle and Bradley Thompson are already writing this episode, which involves Kira and Odo hunting down a cure for the virus. And so it was like, okay, so maybe Kira goes to Cardassia and Odo and Bashir hunt down the virus. But Ira Stephen Bear felt very strongly that Odo and Kira should not be split up at all during the arc. So if you see them split up in this episode, that didn't happen. So it was ultimately decided O'Brien and Bashir would hunt for the cure, and the other 3 would go to Cardassia.
You know, it kind of worked out that they stole the energy weapon and then got Kira a chance to hang out with Odo before we went on this cure finding adventure. So
good timing.
But yeah, so Odo knows how hard it was for Kira to watch Bareil die in that horrible, gruesome way, and he doesn't want to put her through that again. Kira tries to protest, but Odo insists that she go, so she kisses Odo, which I bet was fun to film with all that makeup, and says okay, and they have an emotional goodbye. So, but they did not get split up, apparently. So Kira grabs Garrick, who is hanging around meeting with O'Brien and Sisko, and they leave back to help with the resistance. And when they're gone, Sisko asks Bashir if there's anything he can do to help to find a cure for Odo. And O'Brien uses this opportunity to catch Sisko up on the whole Section 31 creating the virus theory. And then Sisko responds with a very entertaining, "What?" And he asks why they didn't tell him, and they say they thought he would feel obligated to report it.
I mean, he doesn't dispute that, even though I still feel that is a stupid reason.
I'm 100% sure he would not have reported it, but
his actual response is like, well, why would that have mattered?
True. It's like, I am your commanding officer. You gotta report these things to me. But then Bashir and the Chief tell Sisko about their Walter Sobchak plan to pretend to have the cure to lure a Section 31 operative to the station and then beat the real information out of him, which leads to the rare Sisko facepalm. Yeah,
the Sisko facepalm. I was going to mention that if you didn't, because it's you don't see that a lot.
Very underused. Why doesn't that have a meme?
Also, okay, look. Bashir has apparently days ago put out into the world, hey, we have a cure for the virus. Didn't bother telling Sisko. Now Odo is here, and we're telling everyone and sundry that, yeah, we can't cure him. Like, does he not expect that this might get back to Section 31? They might have ears somewhere nearby?
Yeah, I think you may have identified one of the plot holes in this episode.
I feel like also Sisko is like pretty high level commanding officer in this war effort, being commander of this very important station. If a cure to the virus affecting the Founders had been located, I feel like that information would be getting disseminated to his level, and he would have heard about it before now.
Right.
Unless they're just like, oh no, we need to keep this super secret so the Founders don't try to like get in here and get that cure.
Yeah, that could be, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I guess theoretically they could be running some kind of like ball and cup game or whatever you want to call it, where they pretend that Odo's dying and they were not able to find a cure, but then they cure Odo and then just kind of hide him away somewhere until the war's over or something like that. I mean,
he can shapeshift, so he can hide as something. It's easy.
True. It's like, oh man, Odo died. It's like, oh, where'd that rock come from? Oh, that's always been there.
We got a brand new bio bed. Don't ask where.
I guess that's feasible. But so yes, Sisko asks how they plan to get the information out of the Section 31 operative, and Bashir says he got his hands on a Romulan memory scanner. How he got that, who knows? Sisko says, well, that sounds like a dumb and very illegal plan, but whatever. If that's the best we got.
When have I ever been against dumb and illegal plans? Let's do it.
I was about to drop like bioweapons on a whole planet one time, so... later, O'Brien is strolling down the promenade and he sees Bashir and Quarks playing darts. Quark's is closed, I guess because Quark is off filming Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yep.
Bashir tells the chief that he was trying to read, but found himself reading the same page over and over. And what was he reading? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. A Tale of Two Cities, O'Brien's mother's favorite book. Because otherwise, I guess it wouldn't be plausible that he recognized that quote or something.
Yeah, no one knows that quote. So I guess this is the moment that Bashir decided to start a new book, since that is like the first line of the book. And he was just like, yeah, I couldn't get past the first line, essentially.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that too, but he doesn't specifically say that was the page he was stuck on. O'Brien just says, what are you reading? And he says, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Okay. So I think he was just being kind of like, clever or something like that.
I mean, no offense to anyone who that's your favorite book, but like, come on, really?
Hey, don't diss O'Brien's mother.
I'll diss O'Brien's mother all I want. She's not even born yet.
Oh, man. But yeah, Bashir was trying to enjoy the book, but he kept getting distracted with how big the conspiracy must have been to create this disease. Bashir estimates it must have been at least 73 people, which I don't think is necessarily true.
I love the specificity of that.
Right. So I don't think you need all the clerks and stuff that he was talking about. Although in Picard, we do learn that Section 31 has a whole top secret research base out there somewhere. So
yep, a lot of people probably involved in that.
Probably 73 is actually a pretty good estimate.
I wonder if Moriarty's already out there.
Unless just like one guy was working on that lab the whole time.
Yeah, just one dude.
Was that really Moriarty in the lab? I'm trying to remember.
No, I don't think it was. Hold on. Wasn't it? It was like...
Yeah, it was like Data... It was like Data's subconscious...
Yeah.
Inhabiting the computer or something like that.
Something weird like that, yeah.
I don't remember. You still haven't gotten through that on your Star Trek rewatch?
When? That was season 3, wasn't it?
Of Picard, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, partway through season 2, I was just like, I've watched Picard recently enough, and I'm having a lot of trouble getting through this. I'm just gonna jump past it.
Oh.
So yeah, the first time that I have been disloyal to my complete rewatch, and I may go back when I feel more capable of doing Picard. But yeah, I'm just like, I haven't seen these seasons of Discovery that are like at the end here, so let's watch that. I can more easily get myself in the right mindset for that.
Hey, it's your rewatch. You make the rules. So Miles and Julian decide to call it a night. Julian says to sleep lightly tonight. Section 31 might show up, which I think was an obvious, looped line, but whatever. But yeah, sure enough, later, Julian, asleep in bed with A Tale of Two Cities on top of him, wakes up to find none other than Sloane sitting there doing his usual creepy Sloane thing. Sloane says, "Good evening, Doctor. I have another assignment for you."
I've been waiting 2 hours for you to wake up. I kept clearing my throat more and more loudly, and you didn't wake up.
Hey, he's committed to the bit. He's committed to creating the effect. And then Bashir quickly pushes a button, and immediately Sloane is trapped inside the force field. And Sloane says, "Wow, am I supposed to be shocked and humbled by your ingenuity?" To which I say, "No, really, I think you should feel dumb for not expecting this to happen after you've snuck in multiple times and sat down in that exact same chair."
Yeah, the fact that it hasn't happened sooner is really a bad reflection on Bashir.
Yeah, definitely. Sloane asks Bashir what he wants, and Bashir says, "The same thing you do. The cure for Odo." And Sloane says, "But you already have the cure." "Oh, no, wait. That message to Starfleet Medical was a ploy to lure me here. It all makes sense now why your message to Starfleet Medical didn't actually say what the cure was. Yep, I'm dumb. I deserve this. In fact, I probably should have just gone and smashed up your lab and left without even coming in here to creep on you."
Or smashed up his lab and then also kill Bashir.
That too.
Just to be sure.
Yeah, that's probably what you have to do at this point. Sloane asks Bashir what he plans to do. It would be useless to turn him over to Starfleet security, because Bashir doesn't have any actual evidence. But Bashir says, "Oh, I'm not interested in turning you over. I mean to Starfleet. I didn't mean that in like a sexual way. And then Bashir panics and just shoots Sloan with a phaser, and then Sloan slumps over dead. Oh, actually, he was just stunned.
Also, dude should really have some backup.
Yeah, Sloan is not playing the game very well this episode, that's for sure. So, Sloan wakes up on a bed guarded by a force field while Bashir and O'Brien make preparations for the interrogation. Sloan says, "Where am I?" And Bashir says, "On your back, right where I want you." Ah, damn it, strike that. And then Sloan looks at the chief and says, "Hey, Chief, how's the family doing? It sure would be a shame if something happened to them." Neither the chief nor Bashir are impressed by this clumsy threat. Because either you're saying that you've made arrangements ahead of time to have the O'Brien family killed if anything happens to you, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
Or you're saying that you'll retaliate against them if we let you go, which just means we definitely have to kill you now.
Yeah, it's like, thank you for convincing me not to let you go.
Right. It's like, yeah, I might have turned you over at the end of this, but I think now we see that's just not something we can do. Sloan says, so okay, what are we doing here? And Bashir explains the whole logic behind his plan. The very, very dumb logic, which is even dumber knowing what we eventually learn about the actual cure. So Bashir reasons that anybody sent to destroy the cure would have to know what the cure was so that they know what to look for. And Sloan points out, well, he could just smash up the whole lab, and Bashir basically says, no, that's not your style.
Well, also, it makes it sound like the cure is a single, like, vial somewhere in the lab, and he'd have to hunt it down. I'm like, wouldn't it also be, like, in the computers and in your brain and potentially other places?
But given that the cure is just 4 words that are easily remembered or written down by anyone, I think Sloan's plan must have been to find out anyone Bashir told the cure to and assassinate all of them. Because otherwise there would have really been no hope for containment.
Yeah, maybe. He starts out by being like, I have a mission for you, Doctor. And it made me think like, oh, his plan is to like distract Bashir with some new like smoke and mirrors trick, quote, mission while he gets rid of the cure or something. But I don't know what he could have told Bashir after like, we have a mission for you that would have led to the outcome that he's wanting here.
I mean, I don't know if this is what was intended, but I think the thing must be that he's trying to just weasel his way in and find out like everybody that Bashir has had contact with in the past however many weeks or whatever, and then track them all down and kill them so that there's no hope of the cure getting out. Because once again, the cure is just 4 words long. But yeah, so then Sloan does the whole, do you expect me to talk thing? And then Bashir says, no, I expect you to die. Wait, I mean, yes, I do expect you to talk, but for it to be unpleasant, probably. And then Bashir reveals the Romulan mind probes, and he puts them on Sloan's head. And then at this point, Sloan is like, oh crap, these guys mean business.
Yeah, now he's starting to get worried. And he's like, if Cisco finds out, it's like, nope, Cisco knows.
Yeah.
Which I think maybe you shouldn't have said. Like, you're just implicating your commanding officer in illegal stuff at that point.
Yeah. But Sloan says, I don't know the cure, and even if I did, I couldn't tell you. I can't let it fall into the hands of the founders. And Bashir says, well, we're going through with this regardless, so...
So it says that Ronald D. Moore says, initially the thought was to have Odo go into Sloan's mind and have a surreal adventure where he eventually ran into Dr. Mora and learned that his own like father figure was the one who created the changeling disease.
Ooh, that would be an interesting twist.
Unable to really mind this concept for all it was worth, we junked it and decided to make one final Bashir O'Brien adventure. But I think maybe we were closer with the original idea.
Because that's like an established superpower of Odo also.
Oh yeah, from the weird mind-linky past. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, it sounds like Ronald D. Moore kind of regrets that we didn't work harder to go that way with it.
I think this would kind of work better as an Odo episode than a Bashir episode also.
Yeah, and I mean, that was, like it said, the original was like an Odo-Kira adventure to find the cure.
Yeah.
Which, in a way, I get it, but also it makes sense to me that Bashir would be the one working on, it's like when he says you would have to know about what the cure was to identify it in my lab. Like, How are Odo and Kira going to know what they're looking for? Like this advanced medical, whatever it is.
Yeah. Maybe if it was just like all of them, they're like, hey, remember that thing you did where you took us into that alternate past or whatever? Like, let's do that again, but do it on Sloan so we can get the cure out of him. And then they could have a fun adventure inside Sloan's mind. Also, this requires writing an actual interesting stuff to happen inside Sloan's mind, but...
The next note is, as this comment from Moore indicates, this is the only show in the whole final chapter arc that the writers were a little disappointed with. They wanted the show to deal with two major topics, Bashir/Sloan and Bashir/O'Brien, like the relationship between them.
Uh-huh.
But as Weddle explains, we'd have been better off trying to do one or the other. With the focus split, it just didn't work conceptually. So I guess as we progress, we can look out for this split focus of the episode.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, Sloan's laying there, and he's like, I thought you were just a dumb idealist, but you're a dangerous man. People like you would destroy the Federation if you could. Luckily, there are people like me willing to die to protect it. And then he bites down on something and starts convulsing. Bashir instantly realizes that this must be a neural depolarizing device in his brain designed to kill him in just such a situation.
Wow, I'm glad that you knew exactly what that was so quickly.
Also, luckily, it wasn't a cyanide pill, which would have just killed him instantly, but...
Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, then Dr. Bashir might have been able to Frankenstein him back or something.
Yeah, also true. Acting fast, Bashir is able to save Sloan, who is now in a coma or something, but Bashir says he has less than an hour to live. So I guess, like, if he would have just died instantly, the information could have been left in his dead brain or something. So
or something, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, you need to depolarize the neurons to get the poles out of the neurons. But O'Brien asks if they can use the Romulan memory probes on Sloan now, and Bashir says no, his memories are too scrambled now. But then he has an idea. Did you ever see the movie Inception? No, that movie came out way after this episode. How about The Cell, starring Jennifer Lopez? That also came out after this episode.
Also, nobody saw that.
How about that episode of The Outer Limits with Mark Hamill? You know what? Never mind. Just give me the multitronic enigmatic interpreter. So we jump into a montage of Julian and Miles building an Inception machine, which must cover a period of less than 17 minutes, including Julian explaining the plan to Miles 3 times. As we learn, he apparently did. So O'Brien asks how going into Sloan's brain will help him get the cure, and O'Brien says, well, the pathways in his brain will present to me like literal pathways, like streets or corridors or something.
Man, it's good that he knows that.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just a thing that people do all the time these days.
Yeah. There's a lot of Bashir just making stuff up this episode, which turns out to be true, but yeah, he's like, yeah, it might even be the corridors of this very station. Who knows? Or it could be something way more surreal. But it won't be, don't worry.
Okay, so it says, once they figured out what the episode would be about, and that was all finished, they were like, okay, we're going to go into Sloan's mind. We want it to be like a labyrinth with dark corridors and hidden rooms and traps. I'm imagining this is like a D&D dungeon. And then it says, however, the art department could not afford to build new sets. So they suggested using existing Deep Space Nine sets, but lighting and decorating them in really unusual ways to make them look different. Steve Posey, the director, is like, yeah, in the beginning we planned to have like this Alice in Wonderland kind of thing going on, very surreal. And the art department was really excited about redressing the sets and repainting some of them in like a psychedelic style.
Ooh.
But then the writers threw in this plot twist, which we will get to in a bit, where Bashir and O'Brien think they're out of Sloan's mind and back on the station, but really they're not. But that meant that Sloan's mind had to look exactly like the station, or it would be impossible to have that like swap.
Oh.
And so that like took the fun out of it.
Well, but they can't just say that like Sloan made a part of his mind that looks like the station for that part.
Yeah, that was my thinking. Like, well, wait. couldn't you just have filmed that part first? And then it's like, oh, Sloan tricked us. And like the part where they think or where they know they're in his mind is all psychedelic. But I guess no.
I mean, if the concern was they didn't have time to do both, I guess. But I mean, as we'll talk about in a little bit, it was very clear that the writers had a different idea of what was going on in Sloan's mind than what we saw. But okay, so yeah, O'Brien says, so you're just going to wander around these pathways of Sloan's mind looking for a box that says The Cure? And Bashir says, yeah, basically.
And then it would turn out that it's like, they'd get back out and it's like, oh no, this is like the album Disintegration by The Cure.
This is the Best of The Cure box set.
We got to go back.
Good album, but... So O'Brien asks if Sloan will know what's going on, and Bashir says, I don't know. And then O'Brien asks how Bashir plans on getting out when he finds the cure, and Bashir says he's going to use his genetically engineered superpowers to send a signal to his hypothalamus to raise his blood pressure 40%, which will tell the computer to wake him up or something. Like that'll set
Good
off
plan.
his alarm.
Solid.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a Swiss watch.
Like, I don't know why a guy with total control of his body can't just force himself to wake up, but whatever. And then O'Brien asks what happens if Sloan dies while he's in there, and Bashir says, I guess I die too? I don't know. But then that becomes the truth, so...
He knows a lot of weird specifics, but he also doesn't know a lot of things that it feels like he should.
And then it's like, well, are you going to set the computer to wake you up if it detects that Sloan is about to die? And he's like, no. That would make too much sense.
He's going to be about to die the whole time we're in there. That would just be, awkward.
Also, I guess you'd have to be trapped in there till the very last moment, which probably wouldn't be fun. So O'Brien says, well, I'm coming with you. I'm not letting you do this alone. And also, I don't want to run afoul of that famous Cisco boot.
Oh, yeah. It's just waiting. You know it is.
Somehow going into the dream world will protect me from discipline from Cisco. And then Bashir says, okay, I'll go get another bed. And then O'Brien says, we don't need another bed. Okay, yeah, wait, actually, that would be weird. Let's go get another bed. So after they waste even more time setting up another bed and building another headset, they're ready to take this journey into Sloan's mind. And this is where Bashir says they have 43 minutes left until Sloan dies. So once again, all that stuff they just did took less than 17 minutes.
Yeah. It's impressive, really.
Then they turn on the machine and they find themselves standing in a turbo lift. And Chief O'Brien says, why are we in a turbo lift? And Bashir says, no, this is a fake imagination turbo lift. You know, like the elevator in Inception? Remember that whole thing? We're in Sloan's mind. And then because something exciting needs to happen before they go to commercial, the turbo lift starts going really, really fast.
Also, in this scene, when they find themselves in the turbo lift, O'Brien calls Bashir Jules, which I don't think anyone except his parents has ever called him in the show.
Huh. Interesting.
Just random weirdness.
But then they come back from commercial and the turbo lift slows down safely and it stops.
Yeah, everything's fine.
And then Bashir and O'Brien do this weird, unnecessary bit where neither one of them wants to be the first to let go of the turbo lift railings. And then eventually they slowly let go, but then the turbo lift starts dropping again for a second, and then it stops, and then the doors open, revealing one of the corridors of Deep Space Nine.
Oh my gosh.
Bet you didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
And standing there is Sloan. But he's kind of a different Sloan, like a nice Sloan or something. Does this Sloan represent a part of Sloan's psyche that is good and cares about doing the right thing? Or is it some sort of weird deception? Unknown, and we're not going to find out.
No, just don't worry about that.
They ask the nice Sloan for the cure, and he says, yes, you're worried that if you're in here when I die, you'll die too. Well, come with me. And they're like, well, can you just tell us the cure now? And Sloan is like, sure, it's a simple nucleotide marking sequence. Radenine, little stolenine, but then his voice gets all garbled and they can't tell the rest of what he's saying.
Yeah, weirdly, through all the years, I think this is the only thing about this episode that has stuck with me. It's just the way that the garbled Sloan voice is like, little Nina Watson.
It is an interesting effect.
I always remember this, like, little Nina Watson thing. I don't know why.
But you'd think that the information he gave them already would be enough to get Bashir started on finding the cure himself, but...
Yeah, it's like, it's a simple nucleotide sequence, and we know the first one, so I don't know how many possible combinations there are. Maybe there's like bajillions of possible combinations.
Well, I mean, presumably you can just like put that information into the computer, and the computer can spit out some stuff. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
I'm not a medical expert, so I don't know. And then Nice Sloan says he can't say the cure because some part of him doesn't want him to know. But if they go to the wardroom, all will be revealed. On the way to the wardroom, the three of them do a little bit of lampshading. O'Brien asks Sloan why they're on Deep Space Nine, and Sloan says, well, I wanted you to feel at home. That's just what a nice Sloan I am. And they arrive at the wardroom, where all of Sloan's friends and family are gathered, or I assume that's who that is.
Or, yeah, they're just random people, maybe, who knows.
Sloan makes a speech to all of them about how he spent so much time living in a world of secrets that it isolated him from the people he cared about. And now that he's on death's door, he's starting to feel like he never even really existed, which is kind of bleak.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong.
O'Brien and Bashir just kind of squirm in the background, waiting for Sloan to get to the cure part. Sloan continues that his death isn't something to be sad about, it's a celebration. For now that he's dying, he can finally step out of the shadows and prove to himself that he really existed, that he lived. Everybody claps, except for an old guy, I guess is Sloan's dad, who is probably thinking, what the hell is he talking about?
Or maybe, Sloan's dad was a Section 31 operative. That's how it kept in the family, and he's very disappointed in him now.
Yeah, I wonder if that one background actor playing presumably Sloan's dad, built this character in his mind of what's going on.
I certainly hope so. Like, what are we even doing here if you're not doing that?
Yeah, and also, it makes no sense that him dying now helps him step out of the shadows. I mean, he is going into a space dumpster or something after this is done, so he's just spouting a bunch of nonsense at this point. Then a woman comes up to Sloan and says, "That was beautiful, Luther," and kisses him. Sloan introduces her to Miles and Julian as his wife, Jessica. She thanks them for all they've done for her Luther. Being married to Luther was a living hell, but thanks to them, that's all changed. So I guess she's thanking them for killing her crappy husband, is what we're supposed to read.
Yeah,
from
I
this
guess.
scene. Yeah, I don't know. Then Sloan tells Julian that he's been a beacon of light, showing that ideology is a poor substitute for kindness and decency. And that at the end of the day, it's our actions, not our beliefs, that define who and what we are. And Julian says, yeah, sure thing. So, what's the cure? And then Sloan says, oh, right. And he turns to his wife and says, honey, can you give me that pad I gave you for safekeeping? The one with the 4 words on it? And she's like, oh, yeah, sure. And she reaches into her purse, the first purse I think I've ever seen in Star Trek, and pulls out a pad. Sloan is about to hand it over to Bashir, but then the door to the wardroom opens, and someone shoots Nice Sloan in the chest. O'Brien and Bashir turn to look at the attacker, and it's Sloan? So I guess this is the part of Sloan who cares more about ideology than decency. Who knows?
Yeah, or something.
He runs off, and O'Brien and Bashir turn back to see that everyone has vanished from the wardroom, and presumably also the pad that had the cure on it. And O'Brien is like, what the hell is that? And Bashir is like, I don't know.
Something.
Then they open the door to head out of the wardroom, but instead of the Deep Space Nine corridor, they find themselves in what I believe is the Defiant corridor. Because I'd recognize that super cramped corridor anywhere. From the times that they've tried to film 2 people walking side by side, talking in that corridor. And O'Brien looks around and says, I knew it. Knew what, says Bashir. That this wasn't going to be easy, says O'Brien. And then the camera pulls back to reveal that the corridor has at least 3 doors, including the one they came in through. So this is the part where I think they imagined like a huge labyrinth, but then they were just like, oh shoot, what sets do we have that we can do this labyrinth? It's like, how about this little tiny like part of a corridor? And they're like, that'll have to do.
Yeah, that looks daunting and mysterious. Sure.
Right. I just love the way the camera pulls back as if it's like this amazing reveal, and it's like we reveal like 5 more feet of the corridor. Meanwhile, Ezri is having some problems of her own. Her sonic shower is broken, and as usual, the only person on the station capable of fixing anything is Chief O'Brien.
Yeah, like, where's Rom? Like, there's got to be somebody else who can help out.
Yeah. But then she tracked down the chief, and she found him, Dr. Bashir, and Sloan all hooked up to this crazy Matrix Inception rig. So she calls in Cisco, who is like, what kind of bullshit is this?
Yeah, this is really another one of those things they should have run by Cisco, or at the very least told someone about, so that if they all died, it would make some sense.
Yeah. And also, Cisco calls a medical team to Science Lab 4, revealing that that's what this room is. So, because I was kind of wondering about that the whole episode up to this point. Down in the dream world, Julian and Miles wander around the tiny Defiant corridor set, trying to open the same 2 doors over and over, and doing their best to make it seem like it's some kind of never-ending labyrinth.
But they're all locked, so obviously nothing interesting could possibly be behind them.
There's a lot of weird, like, logic and assumptions going on in this part. O'Brien says it's hopeless. Sloan could be anywhere. He could have taken that turnoff back there. But dude, there was no turnoff.
There was no turnoff.
And also, it's important to note, I think Bashir says the time remaining here, and it's like 20 minutes or less. So
it's 24 minutes, I think. Okay, is what he says.
So keep that in mind. We have 24 minutes remaining. But just as O'Brien is about ready to call it quits, he gets interrupted by a guy in one of those snazzy all-black Section 31 uniforms.
I'm really glad that they clearly delineate themselves from everyone else, this secret organization.
Yeah, I need to know the origin of these uniforms, because the whole point of this organization is it's supposed to be ultra covert and secret. And we learn, or supposedly in this episode, there's not even a headquarters. It's just, a few guys doing stuff. Although in Picard, we do learn they have that secret lab, so I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Sloan just wasn't cool enough to learn about the secret lab.
Right.
That was a secret, in a different branch. But it's, I think I've mentioned before at the episode of Lower Decks where it's guy gets recruited into Section 31 and they give him this all black communicator. And he's like, why do we have a communicator? Aren't we a secret organization? Why would our thing look different? And there's we could put you back in the box that we just took you out of. He's like, no, it's fine. Look, see?
Yeah, it must just be some kind of team building thing or something, just getting t-shirts for everybody. Because, they are snazzy looking uniforms. I'll give them that. Section 31 has some style. So anyway, yeah, the guy points a phaser at them and tells them, this is a restricted area. And then O'Brien says, I thought it was the cerebellum. So good one, O'Brien.
Zing. Also,
I guess just when they're about to give up and this guy shows up telling them that they're in the restricted area, it must just be that was a freebie.
Yeah, if you hadn't told us that, then it would have looked exactly like every other 5 feet of corridor we've been down.
I guess the doors in the restricted area can't be locked or something.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Bashir demands to speak to Sloan, and then the man shoots Bashir, who just goes right down. So I guess even in the psychic realm, Bashir has 0 combat effectiveness.
Yep.
And then Miles gets shot too in an ensuing scuffle, but at least he's able to take down the attacker before he stops to take a rest.
Yeah, he gives the guy a good punch, and then the guy falls and vanishes, and I was like, oh, yeah. That was easy.
He punched the guy so hard he stopped existing. That's a pretty good punch.
The classic O'Brien move. The anti-life punch.
I have the anti-life equation. But now the stakes are established. Getting shot in the dream world really hurts. O'Brien and Bashir sit on the floor, wounded and in low spirits. Bashir theorizes that Sloan might be sending sensory signals into their brains to make it feel like they've really been shot. But he hedges that by basically saying, I don't know, I'm just pulling stuff out of my ass at this point. And to make matters worse, Bashir has lost his ability to wake them up using his hypothalamic feedback loop. if ever he actually had that power to begin with. And Miles is like, great, I'm about to die in some weird guy's brain. What a way to go. And then he says he should have at least left a note for Keiko, which leads to a very weird conversation where Miles says that Keiko thinks that he likes Julian more than he likes her. And Julian is like, but you do though, right?
So, there's a note on this. Ira Stephen Bear is recalling this episode years later. And he's like, it was a Section 31 episode. I remember that much. And all I remember was Bashir and O'Brien thought they were going to die again. Again.
Right.
And they get into this discussion that I'd written about how Bashir saying to O'Brien that he loved his wife, but he liked Bashir more. It was one of the few times I got called down to set, because Colum was pissed off. He didn't want to do it. Neither one of them wanted to do it. And we got into this whole thing about the difference between friendship and love. That's my Colum story. He felt he wanted to be true to Keiko, but at the end of the day, they played it, and it was great. I don't know about that last.
Was it, though?
Yeah. They certainly played it at the end of the day. You can't deny that.
I gotta say, I think Colin was onto something here.
Kind of agree, yeah.
And then Bashir confesses that he's passionately in love with Ezri, but still, he likes Miles a bit more. And then Miles is like, oh my god, why are these my last moments? And then a bright light starts shining on them from the end of the corridor, which both of them agree definitively is the tunnel to the great beyond.
Yeah, no, they're 100% on board with the idea immediately with no discussion that is what this is.
Yeah, so this leads me to wonder, are there some like religious or afterlife beliefs in the 24th century that just we never get mentioned, or what's going on? Because they both are like, oh yeah, that the tunnel to the great beyond. That cannot be anything other than that.
No, obviously, yeah.
But O'Brien says, screw that, we've got to carry on our mission to the bitter end, and then he gets up and he tries opening one more door. And then they suddenly wake up. Or do they?
That was the door back to our bodies. That was lucky.
Cisco and Worf and some medics are there in Science Lab 4, and they announce that Sloane is dying. And Bashir says no, and then he goes to try to save Sloane. But Sloane's alpha waves are attenuating, and you know what that means.
Yep, everyone knows what that means. Just like everyone instantly recognizes the glowing light portal to the great beyond, everyone knows what happens when your alpha waves attenuate.
Yep, it's not good, that's for sure. And despite Bashir's best efforts, Sloane dies, along with any hope of curing Odo. So Bashir goes to the dying Odo to tell him that the ridiculous plan didn't work. And then, dejected, he goes home to lay down and read his book. I'll just insert right here. We had 24 minutes left, remember?
Yep.
But something's wrong. Bashir turns to the middle of the book and starts reading, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. So I guess also, going back to what we were discussing before, I guess it's feasible that he got stuck on the first page earlier, but then later when he went to bed, he like read halfway through the book, and then now he's like in the middle of the book and it's starting over again or something.
I was just like, wait, had he really never read this before? Like, this was his first time? Like, oh, I have to read the Tale of Two Cities, I guess. He also says he borrowed it from Ezri, so I guess this is one of those things where like, oh, the girl that I likes this book, I guess I'll read it.
Although, it doesn't even say that Ezri liked it. It just says that it was Jadzia's, and she was the one who read it, so I don't know what the deal is, but
it's like, if you wanted to read the book, you could replicate the book, right? Or even just have it on a pad. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so weird that it has to have this whole history attached to it.
You know, it's just it's fun reading a classy old book sometimes. I don't know,
but I have totally read a book because a girl I liked was like, "Hey, I like this book," so I get it, Julian.
all right. Was it A Tale of Two Cities?
No, it was not. We read A Tale of Two Cities in like middle school, I think.
Yeah, we read it a long time ago.
I remember actually liking it when we read it in school, and then like years later in maybe late high school or in college, I read it again, and I was like, ugh. I apparently have grown past Dickens because I am not enjoying any of these things.
I remember having some fun French Revolution action, but I have not read it since school, so I don't know. So Julian goes to Miles's quarters to show him the book, and Miles theorizes that it must be a misprint. But this is where Bashir says that Ezri lent him the book which used to belong to Jadzia, and he knows Jadzia read the whole thing. How he's so sure of that, I don't know. I guess maybe at some point she said, "Oh, I read that whole book," or something, but whatever. And O'Brien says, well, maybe Ezri is playing a prank on you. A really weird, pointless prank.
Yeah, how bizarre a prank would that be?
But Bashir reveals what he probably should have started the conversation with, given the incredibly short amount of time they have, and says, they're not awake, they're still trapped in Sloane's mind. And O'Brien says, that's ridiculous. These are my quarters. Keiko's in the next room. I mean, you can't see her, but trust me, she's in there. And Bashir goes on to explain, somewhat pointlessly, that Keiko is there because Sloane is drawing on Miles's memories of Keiko, but the book is incomplete because Bashir never finished reading it, so he has no memories to draw on. And presumably Sloane never read the book either, and O'Brien wasn't paying attention all those times his mom read it to him, so Sloane can't...
Yeah, there was no place to get the rest of the words from.
Right. Sloane just had nowhere to get the rest of that book, so... And then Miles is like, wait, that door we were about to open when we woke up, that's where the cure must be. And Julian is like, sure, why not? The episode's almost over, so I guess we'll go with that. And sure enough...
Gotta be somewhere.
Yep, sure enough, the room shakes a little bit, and Bashir says, Sloane is dying, we better get moving. The shaking means dying. And then they open a door and find themselves right back in that little corridor, big elaborate maze. And they wander around a little until they find the door they're looking for, which they open, and they find Sloane sitting in there behind a desk in an office with papers and pads scattered all over the place. And Sloane says, well, you don't expect me to just give you the cure, do you? And then Julian starts looking through all the pads, and he glances at one and sets it down, and Sloane is like, oh, you should look at that pad again. It's the secret Section 31 surveillance reports on Jerish Inyo.
A guy who I guess is no longer president, or...
Yeah, Bashir's like, you mean the really gullible and indecisive former president of the Federation who almost handed the government over to that military coup? Wow.
Yeah, that guy.
Wow, Section 31 had someone in his cabinet.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, I
wonder whose side Section 31 would have been on with that coup.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that too. It's like, did they get this infiltrator in there before or after the coup happened? Or did the coup happen and they were like, okay, Jerish and you cannot be trusted. We got to put one of our guys in here.
Yeah, maybe. There's also a note here that the papers on top of his desk are the same pages used in the Book of Coast Amogen.
I suspected that's what they were. Or because they looked like some kind of Bajoran book or something. So
they definitely look like Bajoran writing, which is like, why would that be in Sloane's brain? But whatever.
Yeah. Whatever. Reuse those props. I won't blame you. And also, I find it like not super amazing that Section 31 had a guy in the president's cabinet. Like that seems like a pretty standard thing.
They would obviously want that. So,
and then Bashir's like, oh, and look at this, Section 31 operations on Kronos. Wow, so much great dirt on Section 31, assuming that Sloane didn't just make all this stuff up.
Yeah, from my perspective, I'm like, why do we care? Like, let them do stuff on Kronos.
Yeah, I don't know. And then Miles picks up a pad and says, hey, look at this. And then Bashir reads, Radenine, Litistolinine, Asporanine, Adenine. Oh yeah, that would cure a changeling virus, all right.
Yeah, see, that's what Sloane really should have had is just a bunch of pads that started with Radenine and had different, combinations.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting thing to happen, or any number of things that didn't happen in this episode. But yeah, so they found the cure. It's just in time because the room is really starting to shake, and then sparks are flying all over the place. Sloane is really dying. But then Bashir comes down with a really bad case of Indiana Jones at the end of The Last Crusade and says, no. Yep. Look at all this information we could use to take down Section 31. We have to stay and get as much as we can. Although, even in The Last Crusade, they actually went there for the Holy Grail. It wasn't just like a random distraction at the last minute.
It's true.
Like a candy bar at the checkout aisle or something.
Indiana Jones was there, and they found the Holy Grail, and then, like, as they're leaving, he sees the Ark of the Covenant also. Right. He's like, wait, how'd that get here?
So I got the Holy Grail, but I need that too now.
Yeah.
So O'Brien is like, no, this is dumb. Sloane is obviously just trying to trick us into staying here so that we die with him, according to the rules that we just guessed at earlier, but I guess are now definitely true. And Sloane says, this is your last chance. There's no room like this in the real world. All these secrets are in the minds of a select few Section 31 operatives. And then Bashir is like, oh, okay, cool. Then I'll just lure one of those guys to the station and incept the information out of him. Thanks. And then he activates his hypothalamic whatever, and he and O'Brien wake up just as Sloane dies and crosses over into the great beyond, apparently.
And it works this time, unlike last time.
Uh-huh. Well, because Bashir actually did it this time. Or, yeah, I don't know. I guess he's not fake. He's not fake wounded anymore, so...
Yeah, he doesn't have a phaser hit, I guess. Yeah. So, yeah, okay.
Then Julian wakes up and sees Ezri looking down at him, and he says she looks beautiful, which seems to leave her speechless. But Sisko's like, yeah, enough of that. Did you get the cure? And Bashir says, I think so. I mean, at this point, we might as well just inject it into Odo and hope for the best. I mean, there's really nothing to lose.
That's Bashir medical ethics right there.
Yep. And that's what he does, warning Odo that it's going to be painful. But luckily, it doesn't actually look that painful at all, and Odo is pretty much immediately cured. And he seems very happy and relieved.
It is nice that it works so fast.
Yeah. Later, Bashir and O'Brien break into Quark's again and steal a bottle of scotch from under the bar, which was apparently made sometime between when O'Brien was born and when Bashir was born. Or at least I'm assuming it's scotch, because given the chief's taste, I mean, it does kind of look like apple juice in that bottle. But
this is some vintage apple juice.
It's like, what is this, Welch's? Then they pour a couple of glasses and toast Odo, and apparently whatever they're drinking is really good.
Yay.
O'Brien wonders if they would have stayed in Sloane's mind, if they would have been able to take down Section 31, and Bashir says, who knows, but Sloane almost got me with that temptation. But he didn't count on me having you to talk me down. And O'Brien is like, yeah, friendship. That can be the moral of the episode, why not? Anyway,
sure.
I gotta go home and have dinner with the family, and he heads out. But then he turns back and he says, wanna come? As if this is the first time that, like, he's ever invited Bashir over for dinner, which is definitely not true, but whatever.
Well, Keiko would hate it, but, you know.
So the two of them head off for some of Keiko's delicious cooking. Bashir turns back real fast and throws one last dart at the dartboard, which hits a perfect bullseye, signifying something. The end.
I mean, maybe he's been underplaying his skills even after the reveal that he was genetically engineered.
This whole thing, he's just been conning Miles the whole time.
I mean, he was conning him the whole time before the reveal that he was genetically engineered, pretending that they were roughly even.
True.
So, let's see. So, there's a couple more notes that I got here. The initial version of the script, at least after it was decided to do Bashir and O'Brien and Bashir Sloane, the structure of the episode was very much split into two distinct halves. The first, a very dark and serious verbal duel between Bashir and Sloane. The second, a reasonably lighthearted O'Brien-Bashir adventure. As Weddle says, it was a very serious exploration of the moral implications of what Sloane had done, played against Bashir's willingness to cross the line himself to pull the information out of Sloane's head. That much was great, but it didn't work at all with the tone of the second half of the show. Also, O'Brien's role in that version was minimal, meaning that the relationship aspect between them felt tacked on, and they were like, we owe this Bashir-O'Brien relationship more than this. So I guess they tried to enhance that.
I mean, I was wondering if they were trying to do some kind of like bookend with, what was it, Apocalypse Rising or whatever? Or no, Apocalypse Rising was the Klingon episode. Was it Apocalypse Games? Armageddon Games?
Armageddon Games, that's what you're thinking of,
yeah. So I was wondering if they were trying to do a bookend with that, like, I don't know, the beginning of their friendship versus like some new development in their friendship. I'm still not quite clear what they were trying to go for this episode, but or just like a revelation of their friendship or something. I don't know. What I'm saying is I'm trying to help the episode out, and it's very hard.
The last note in here is from a review where this guy says the best part of the episode was the camaraderie between these two, which has always been a strength on Deep Space Nine. It gave Bashir credible moments to demonstrate his genetic enhancement talents, traits they often ignore, and I enjoyed almost any episode that focuses on O'Brien. And these two have always played well off of each other. Extreme measures may have reduced the momentum of the final chapter, but I'm happy the show gave Bashir and O'Brien one last adventure together.
All right.
I hadn't thought about it that way before, but it definitely feels like we've reduced the momentum from like the big epic struggles in the rest of the episode to like this very small story, or in the rest of the arc, I should say. But that's all the notes.
So, ready to jump into reviews?
Sure.
Okay, what do you think of the episode Extreme Measures?
So, like it's reminding me in a bad way of the episode where where Bashir is in his own brain and the Lethian is like tracking him down and stuff.
Yep.
That's not a good comparison that you want to be making any episode to that one. So, and like I said, it feels very small. We're dealing with the end of the war. We're dealing with these big things, and this is an episode that's almost entirely these three people. And I get this idea that they had, like, oh, we need a last O'Brien-Bashir thing, and we want to give Sloan some time, because, honestly, who doesn't want to see more of Sloan? He was always pretty good. We, unfortunately, actually get very little of Sloan, I feel like.
Yeah.
We get, like, weird, nice Sloan for a little bit, and then we get, like, one final scene with, like, other mind Sloan, but most of the fun of him is, like, his superior, like, he's always planning 3 steps ahead, and he's always thought about what you're going to do before you do it. And none of that came through in this episode. So I feel like we almost did him in Section 31 a disservice by making it so easy to put one over on them in like one of the most transparent schemes ever. So also it didn't feel so much like a great last adventure for these two, especially because almost the entire time O'Brien is like, is this a good idea? Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. I don't like what is happening. Which maybe that fits with their entire relationship where Julian's always doing crazy stuff and O'Brien's like getting dragged along. I don't know, but it doesn't feel like they're having a fun adventure. It feels like they are not having a good time in any way. And so that doesn't make the episode feel like, oh, here's one great last romp for these two. That makes it like, oh, misery. Great. And there's just so many plot holes. We've pointed out a bunch of them already, but it's just like the story, when you really look at it, doesn't make sense. So it's not a great episode all around. There's very little that I can point at that is like, oh, this episode was good in this way. Like at the moment, I can't think of a single scene. Maybe the one where they have to admit to Sisko, like how stupid they have been, and Sisko does the facepalm, and it's just like, oh my gosh, you guys are idiots.
That was a pretty good moment.
That at least felt like real and Deep Space Nine-y, I think. The rest of it was just like insanity, and like it didn't feel well thought through at all. And you get the impression they're writing this big 9-part finale or whatever, that they're just like, the original plan for this episode didn't work. They couldn't have, Ira Steven Bear's like, no, you can't split Odo and Kira up, so you can't have them on a wacky cure finding adventure. So it feels like they were like, okay, well then shit, what do we do? And then they had some interesting ideas, and it was like, no, we don't have the money for those. You need to do like a bottle episode, and you get like 2 actors to do it with. And they're like, fine, okay. Here is the best crap that we could come up with in under those constraints with the short time that we have. It just feels like it does bring the whole overarching plot, like the pace of things, to kind of a grinding halt as we mess around in somebody's brain for an hour. So yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't think it's like Ensign. It's not like that miserably bad,
sure,
but it just does not have much of anything that I find redeeming about it. So I think I'm going to have to go like Lieutenant Junior grade.
Oh man. Okay, so I'll start off by saying something that bothers me about this episode shouldn't Section 31 want to cure Odo? Like, shouldn't they want to give him the cure so that when the founders die off, they can install him as the new puppet ruler of the Dominion?
Interesting.
Because haven't we established before that, like, without the founders, the Jem'Hadar will just go rogue and start, like, tearing shit up?
I assume that the issue is that they're worried if the cure is known in any way, it will get back to the founders because they can be disguised as anybody. So maybe if the founders had died first, then they would have been happy to cure Odo. But I think until then, it's too much of a risk.
Yeah. Like, I would just give him the cure and then just keep him locked up until all the founders die and then bring him out. But, like, keep him in that secret lab that we learned about in Picard.
I mean, they're keeping a lot of stuff in there, including, weren't there changelings in there? Or was that a different torture lab?
I think that was the same lab where they had the changelings, right?
Yeah. So there's already some changelings in there.
Yeah, they're just, like, trapped in test tubes. So I guess the moral of this episode is supposed to be that Bashir cares about his friends, and Sloane has sacrificed friendship for this hollow existence or something. But, like, I really kind of had to squint my eyes to get there. It was not very, like, it was not very, like, deftly handled or whatever. I will say that I like the concept of pausing the arc to do this one weird episode. Especially, like, it has this really cool premise, which is, like, taking this really enigmatic guy, Sloane, and, like, infiltrating his mind, and then, like, you can peel back the layers of his psyche in this quest for this one secret. Like, when you pitch it, at least, it sounds like a really cool idea. But the episode, as we've discussed, does nothing with it, so...
Yeah, so do you think if they'd gone and done the, like, redecorated all the sets in psychedelic, weird craziness, would that have...
I think it's just a problem with, like, the writing and the story, because I want to, like, this is our chance to learn more about Sloane, like, who he is as a person, what drives him, you know, like, what's his rosebud and all that stuff. Like, I was thinking about, the X-Files episode, Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man, where we kind of learn the backstory of the cigarette smoking man, who is a kind of similar character. Like, you know, he's this shadowy operative who's doing all this, like, mysterious stuff. I think that's the biggest lost opportunity of this episode is we're diving into Sloane's mind, so we can see all these different parts of him. Like, you know, maybe he is, like, you know, he's got parents and a wife and children, but, you know, also he's got these conflicting, like, ideologies and stuff, which they kind of really clumsily hinted at briefly in this episode. But I feel like there's a real meal you can make out of that. And this episode didn't really try that hard with it, so... And then that way it'd be easier to compare Sloane to Bashir, like I think they were trying to get at with, like, the Sloane doesn't have friends, but Bashir, like, you know, his friendships, like, feed him and make him better or something like that. I don't know. So yeah, I think overall it was just, in every way, it was kind of bungled. And that whole, like, they like each other better than Keiko or Ezri or whatever, that was just really weird. And I think the actors were very right not to want to do that scene, because it's bizarre and dumb. Let's see. One thing I did kind of like is the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade ending a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of like a thing. Obviously, we're kind of, like, winding down the Section 31 story right now, so it's just kind of like a little... there's so much more we could do, but, I have to stay focused on my goal and save my friend or whatever. So, I don't know. Just the question I've been asking myself is, like, does it have at least some entertainment value? Because it's, like, it is definitely not a, like, the storyteller or the stupid Worf on Ryza episode.
Yeah.
But it's just bad for such a late episode in the series. I think I don't know. I think I'm not going to be quite as harsh as you, and I'm just going to give it, like, a full lieutenant.
Okay.
Even though, I mean, Lieutenant Junior Grade is definitely not an unfair review, in my opinion, either. So, yeah, so we got 2 episodes left. Who knows what may happen? I guess, unless you count the finale as 2 separate episodes.
Yeah.
But we're in the end game now, or something. But you got any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Nah.
All right. Well, that's our discussion of extreme measures. Thanks for listening. If you like that one, maybe you'll like our discussion of some of the ones we mentioned in this episode, like the Bashir mind maze episode where he grows old inside the thing after the Lethian lightnings him in the head.
Distant Voices is that one.
Distant Voices. Let's see, we mentioned Armageddon games. We mentioned the Odo Mind Link, whatever episode where they went back and met Red Foreman. But you can find those wherever you're listening to this, and probably by the time you're listening to this, maybe even the last 2 episodes are out there too. Who knows? We're almost to the end.
That Odo one was Things Past.
Things Past. Okay. Good.
I couldn't think of his name, and when you said like Red Foreman, so then I had to like try to Google Star Trek and Red Foreman, and it took me a minute to get where I needed to be.
Nice, but it got you there, right?
Eventually, yes.
Also known as who was he in RoboCop? Bedecker?
Oh, I don't remember that. It's been a while since I've seen RoboCop.
He's the guy who says "bitches leave."
Yeah. No, I remember he's like the bad guy, or the.
He's like the head henchman.
Bad guy. Yeah, of the criminals, not the corporate bad guys.
Right,
which there's the 2. Yeah,
he's like the like Dick Jones or whatever is the main bad guy, but he's like the main like dirty work bad guy.
Yeah,
RoboCop is a great movie. You should watch it if you haven't seen it. I'll just throw that recommendation out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and if you want to leave us a comment, you can do that on YouTube. My name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
Adios.
We look forward to seeing you next week on Undeclared Bajor. But remember, don't reach too hard for that grail.
So true.